Here on the ground, change happens fast. Problems feel frequent and urgent. It's loud and anxiety runs high. From a satellite view, the Earth looks the same as it did thousands of years ago. We've been here before. Let's learn from our past and shoot for a better future.
Todd Mikkelson here with a satellite view. And on a satellite view, I like to do Casey Kasem's countdown of the stupidest antics Republicans have done this week. Usually I pick out different people, and it's, like our next artist. But now it's just getting too widespread. They do it collectively now. They do it together. So it's hard to pick out specific people. I want to talk about what the Minnesota GOP is doing right now. They're trying to do this thing called Parents' Bill of Rights. At least that's what Paul Gazelka calls it. Minnesota state Republicans on Monday unveiled a series of bills they say would empower parents to review and object to school curriculum. 4 GOP lawmakers, including 2 running for governor, said they want to enshrine in state law the principle that a parent has a right to direct their child's education. First of all, parents are already involved. I'm a parent. I was very involved in my daughter's school, as involved as they would let me be. I mean, I wanted to hang out there all the time. I love the atmosphere at her school. But, I don't. They wouldn't allow me to be the creepy old man hanging out at the school. But the thing is that, any opportunity, conferences, parents' conferences, all events, things like that, it's not like they were hiding what they were teaching, I knew what my daughter was being taught, and I was very glad. I was very grateful that I didn't have to weed it out. I didn't choose to do home schooling. I want my kid to go to public schools, and I want public schools to be the best they possibly can be, and that's why I trust actual educators, because they know how and what to teach. I don't. All these people showing up at these school board meetings yelling about CRT that is not being taught anywhere. They don't even know what it is. It seems to me like they're not putting that time in. They come in and get all up in arms about mask mandates and CRT and stuff, and so that's why now the Minnesota GOP, they came up with, hey, this would be great to run on. This is really an issue right now. We have all these, I can't use bad words, pieces of or something holes. Parents showing up at these school board meetings. Now, of course, I also know that these parents who were showing up were brought in by outside turf groups, AstroTurf groups. If you don't know what the AstroTurf is, they call it grassroots, but really it's AstroTurf because going back to the Tea Party days, they said, "Oh, we're a grassroots political movement," but no, they were paid for by super rich people. So the term AstroTurf. Now I'm getting in the weeds. The point is that public school teachers already have an awful lot to do. I'm going to read more from this Minnesota Reformer article that I started. So Paul Gazelka, who's running for governor, he came out this last week with this big announcement. And he says things like, parents know what's best for their kids in their education. Let's make a syllabus available to every classroom in Minnesota. Also, that was Michelle Benson's line. She's also running for governor. They're both wrong. They're both wrong. Like I just said, I'm a parent, and I don't know what's best for my kid in her education. I want other people to handle that. I'm playing my part as a parent. They play their part as educators. Now, the funny thing about this bill, details about the proposals were scarce. Under current state law, school directives have to provide instructive materials for parents' review upon request, as well as alternative instruction if parents object to the content. That's already there. That's already law. Even Senate Education, Finance, and Policy Chair Senator Roger Chamberlain, who is by no means anything other than one of these very far-right crazy people, he says about this bill, you're getting down in the weeds. The rabbit holes are something we are not going to chase you down. So even he's not willing to go along with this craziness. Paul Gazelka apparently is. Paul Gazelka used to at least seem to me to be less of a far-right freak than Roger Chamberlain, but now Paul Gazelka's just doing, he holds his finger up in the wind, and the wind is only what the far-right Trumpers, MAGATs are saying. That's the wind I'm talking about. So going back to the Minnesota Reformer article, lawmakers did not provide examples of the types of materials, books, or curriculum they say some parents had found objectionable. They also did not qualify how many of the state's more than 300 school districts were host to contentious curriculum debates. So-called parents' rights legislation is being introduced in a number of states, including Wisconsin, and also in Congress. This follows conservative furor over cultural issues that some say propelled Republican Governor Glenn Youngkin into office in Virginia. And we've all seen that since Glenn Youngkin actually became governor of Virginia, he has no idea how to be governor of anything. But when he was running, he made education a key message in his race for governor. The conservative base of the GOP is particularly exercised about how racial issues are being addressed in public schools. That's the whole CRT thing. They don't know what it is, but, of course, they're all always, it seems to always come down to race. Does it not? Some educators say the new regulations would tax already overburdened school districts, administrators, and teachers. In Indiana, for instance, parents already have an exhaustive process to express concerns with curriculum, according to an association of school boards. There's more political grandstanding than having a legitimate value or impact about what should be taught. This is being said by the Indiana School Boards Association Executive Director Terry Spradlin, who goes on to say, I think the bill could have a profound effect, driving more educators out of the classroom and really hamper their skill and ability to teach curriculum effectively. Then, of course, you add in the religious freaks, the Christian freaks. Yes, I'm calling you Christian freaks. The Minnesota Family Council, a conservative Christian group, is also behind the Parents' Rights Bill. Veronica Misling, the group's director of public policy, says, in Minnesota, parents have been shocked to discover that their child is taught to question her gender identity and sexual identity. They are appalled when she is exposed to topics like institutionalized racism at a young age and before they have introduced these sensitive topics. Which, when you really analyze that sentence, doesn't make sense, but she's mixing in the whole, LGBTQ issue with racism. Because that's what the Christians are about these days. The people who call themselves Christians, that's what they're about. I mean, what is she saying? Institutionalized racism. The kids are being taught institutionalized racism. They're exposed to topics like institutionalized racism. These kind of conversations, to me, are important. We need to understand our history. They keep saying that, you don't want to be canceled. We don't want to cancel things. Well, they want to cancel United States history. Again, like all us sane people point out, if you don't study your own history, you're going to make the same mistakes. If you don't include the bad parts of what you've done in the past, you're going to repeat that. We're seeing that with the anti-maskers when we had the almost very similar pandemic 100 years earlier. There were anti-maskers back then, and it lasted 2 years longer than it needed to. What does that sound like? Another thing then, Denise Specht, who's the president of Education Minnesota, she said, every educator I know welcomes conversations with parents about the lessons being taught in school, but GOP senators today presented a plan to drop a crushing amount of extra paperwork on already exhausted teachers without a plan for how it would work, how parents would use the information, or even if it was necessary. When mandating more work for every teacher in the state, the details matter, she said. So again, the Republicans are just using this as a political ploy. They're seeing it as something that they can do to run for governor. We want to have a Parents' Bill of Rights. And now, I want to talk about mandates. I mean, they're just going after the reddest meat. They have no details. They don't know what they're talking about. CRT, boo! You know, what does CRT stand for? And they'll go, I don't know, but it's CRT! It's just getting so... I can't figure out... Well, I think I can. Somebody like Paul Gazelka, who is not this person, not saying he's, anybody I would agree with in the slightest bit. He's homophobic, racist. But he wasn't talking like this until he ran for governor, until he began running for governor. And this is just absolute BS, what they're doing. Yeah, the Minnesota School Boards Association of Metropolitan School Districts, and Minnesota Association of School Administrators, in a letter, said they did not support additional requirements to codify parent engagement, which they said is already strong. Parents already have rights. They don't need a Bill of Rights. They already have say in what's being taught to their kids. If they care enough to show up to parents' conferences and things like that, if they care enough to do that, they would know that CRT is not even a thing, much less being taught in schools. As you can tell, I'm getting a little foamy here. Anyway, this subject is absolute craziness, and it's complete BS. I mean, even Senator Chamberlain knows this. And again, I point out, he's a far-right loon himself, Roger Chamberlain from Lino Lakes. He thinks this is crazy, and he's crazy.
Casey Kasem's countdown of the stupidest antics the Republicans have done this week. Our next artist is all of them collectively.
You've been listening to A Satellite View with host Todd Mikkelson. Go to toddmikkelson.com for links and more information.